Does it ever feel like there's two sides of you? One that builds, grows, develops, and is extremely consistent with good habits, and one that destroys and breaks things down. One side of you is consistently meditating, training, working, dieting, and goes to bed on time, and the other is the polar opposite of that. It stops exercising, its diet falls apart, it plays video games, drinks, and stays up late. Things are just bad. There's like an angel and a devil on your shoulders. One day, or week, or month, the angel takes over and you feel like nothing can stop you, and the other day, week, or month, the devil takes over and you feel like you're stuck in a rut again. In this video, I want to cover a method called disciplinary homeostasis that helped me get out this cycle. This will also help you understand this oscillation, get out this cycle of extreme productivity followed by extreme laziness, and reach very consistent levels of high discipline. Now, this idea of disciplinary homeostasis can be divided into two different terms, discipline and homeostasis. Before we understand the main idea, we need to define each variable and understand it. First, discipline is the act of doing something regardless of what your emotional state is like. When we go and train in the gym and our body and mind tells us to stay on the couch, it requires us to use discipline. When we try our best to resist junk food, we have to use discipline. Discipline is acting in the right way regardless of what your emotions tell you to do. Often we need to use discipline when these emotions are negative, not positive. When the emotion is positive, acting isn't difficult and doesn't require discipline. When the emotion is positive, we feel motivated to act. So, discipline is more like the act of doing something when your emotions tell you to do the opposite. Now, homeostasis is a natural mechanism in our body that is there to maintain a certain balanced internal and physiological state. It is there to maintain a certain balance in our body. For example, when our body starts to feel too hot, our body starts to sweat to evacuate some of that heat through water and via our pores. That way, our body is trying to cool us back down to our normal body temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. When we feel too cold, we begin to shiver and create movement. That way, we heat up our body and again get closer to our normal body temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. Homeostasis is the process that regulates those things. It tries to maintain a certain balance between things. Now, the thing with homeostasis is that it isn't just something that appears in our body. We often see it with plateaus in nature as well. When we have two species of animals and one is the predator of the other, if there's not enough prey, the predator will start to die off, and when the predator dies off, the prey can start to repopulate again, and when the prey repopulates, the predator can start to repopulate as well, and so on. There's this sort of balance in the amount of prey and predator in a specific environment. There's this stabilizing feedback loop in many different places, and what we need to do is take that stabilizing feedback loop and apply it to our mindset and to our discipline. So, what does disciplinary homeostasis really mean? We know that discipline is the act of doing something we don't feel like doing, and homeostasis is the natural mechanism in our body that pushes us to keep a certain physiological and internal balance. What often happens when we go through up and down cycles like this is us passing a certain limit and our body trying to pull us back down to normal level. You can use body heat as a metaphor. When we're getting too disciplined, it is like us getting too hot and our body trying to find a way to cool us down. And when we get too lazy, it is like us getting too cold and our body making us shiver and move to get us back to normal body heat levels. Our body is trying to maintain a certain level of effort, but not too much effort and discipline either. When we think about this up and down cycle, being too disciplined for too long creates burnout, and burnout is kind of like forced laziness through too much discipline. If you take yourself through too much discipline for too long, burnout will inevitably happen and you will be forced to be lazy for a while. Burnout is our body keeping homeostasis in the amount of effort it makes. On the other hand, too much laziness creates frustration, anger, and dissatisfaction, which push you into action and a desire to do things. Now, my channel is focused on fitness, but this cycle can happen with basically anything productive you're trying to do. Work, meditation, and many other things like this. With fitness, however, you see it with three main things: training frequency, dieting, and recovery. First is that people are often very inconsistent with their training. One day, week, or month, they're training a lot and very consistently, and the other day, week, or month, they train once a week or not at all. With diet, people tend to be very consistent with their diet and eat very clean for a while and then go the complete opposite way afterwards. With bedtimes and recovery, we see the same oscillation. Sometimes people are extremely consistent with their bedtime and when they go to bed, and other times they're a complete mess. The main idea you have to keep in mind to avoid this up and down cycle and maintain very steady and consistent action is to simply not take yourself too far. We should find our middle ground that we can maintain for a very long time and maybe even forever. The way we find that middle ground is by analyzing our peaks and troughs very carefully and seeing how we behave at our peak and how we behave at our worst. When we know how we act at both extremes, we can find the middle ground between both behaviors. If at your worst you don't train at all and revert to your old shitty diet, and at your best you're able to maintain an active lifestyle with 6 training days a week and an 80% clean diet, the average between both extremes might be to train 3 times a week with a 50% clean diet only. This middle ground is also where you'll happen to feel the most content and have the most steady emotional state. When you're not going through this extreme emotional rush followed by a wave of negative emotions, and you keep an emotional state in between those two extremes, you will feel a lot more content with life in general. Now, there's 2 common mistakes I made myself and I can see many other people also make. First is getting caught in the emotional high that is motivation and letting yourself get taken to that place of extreme productivity. It's very easy for us to get caught in that rush of dopamine and serotonin and start making all these plans and changes to our life. This is something that I call the motivation illusion. Motivation blinds us. It makes us think and believe that all these changes we're making, whilst we feel that emotional rush, will be sustainable for the long run, but they're not. Motivation makes us blind to the fact that we're above our baseline discipline level and our homeostatic mechanism will soon bring us back down. We need to start being careful of that emotional rush we feel, take a step back and analyze it. You don't want to make a plan for what you will do in the future based on that motivating feeling. You need to again analyze your peaks and troughs and based on those determine your middle ground. Stick with it and do not go above or below that amount of discipline and effort, no matter how motivated or how unmotivated you feel. A second mistake is feeling the need to catch up on the days, week or months you were unproductive by doing more than you're capable of maintaining. In general, when we are inconsistent with something we used to be more consistent with, we feel the need to do more in order to catch up on the days or the weeks we've missed. This is the second trap that you need to avoid. You will probably feel that need to do more than you can maintain just to help you catch up on those unproductive times. But again, you need to come back to your middle ground and stick to that no matter what happens. Now, once you have been consistent with behaviors that align with your middle place, you can start to slowly improve on them. You don't want to go up too much because you will then again re-enter this up and down cycle. What you want to do now is make incremental changes in the amount of effort you put in until that amount solidifies in your brain and becomes your new baseline. When you perform certain behaviors at a certain intensity for a while, they start to become automatic and normal. That is what we want to do with these incremental changes. We want to do them for long enough that they become our new norm and then improve again. After a while, those new improvements will become our new standard, and that's how you improve a ton in the long run. You could technically keep yourself in that up and down cycle forever and give yourself the illusion of being productive, but to truly get better and improve, you will need to approach it intelligently and slowly. If, for example, your middle ground was that you train 3 times a week for 1 hour each time with a 50% clean diet, a slight improvement you could make is to improve your diet to a 55% clean diet. Then you'll keep that level until it becomes your new norm. What I did for most of my journey is that I went through these up and down cycles, but each time my peak slightly improved and my trough also slightly improved. And that way my baseline also improved as well. That is how these days my diet is essentially 95 to 100% clean. It is because I've slowly improved my baseline diet over time, and therefore I'm now in a position where eating 100% clean is basically my new baseline and there's nothing that I can really improve in terms of quality. Same with training. There are times where I'm much less consistent with training because I'm prioritizing different goals, but if I wanted to re-enter a period of focused training again, I could easily be 6 days a week in the gym for a year straight. Again, because I've slowly improved my baseline over time, I'm now in a position where this is normal for me. If you can analyze your behavior, find your peaks and troughs, based on those, find your middle ground, and then slowly improve that baseline over time, you will be able to reach peak discipline without feeling like you're putting any effort in. So, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you learned something. You can watch this video on how to change your physique in 6 to 12 months if you're willing to finally take your fitness journey seriously.